So, ooh.
Hey,
Wait.
just trying to.
Okay, there we go. There we go. No echo. I have my phone on. I have a webcam. I have this going. I have the full cooking show going.
Same thing, man. I'm trying to figure out how to best do this. So you're going to be toggling different views from, and those should be available on your YouTube.
Yeah. So the YouTube link.
Uh-huh.
Um. So like this is how I was thinking was everything like I have my Zoom going to YouTube right now. So the YouTube link is live. So
Okay.
saying right now that's all on YouTube.
Okay.
Uh, and then and then I like just let people in and out of this room. I'll do screen sharing from here. I'll swap the cameras and everything to like get the different views. Now, if do you would you so let's make the decision. Does that sound good or do you envision like a different way?
That sounds good on paper. It's just kind of like watching a gym list. Like, yeah, I can do that, and then trying to do it. So let me try right now to see if I can take this Twitch stream and capture the YouTube video from the Twitch stream. I'm personally okay with it. I have no idea if I can do it technically. So
Okay. Okay, there we go. There we go. No echo. I have my phone on. I have a webcam. I have this on. I have
In the daytime with the sun. Well, it's kind of shady. Sun, where are you? Oh! Say hi. I like you. I like you. Who are you? Alexis. Say it loud. Alexis. Yes, say the sun. Hello. Oh no! I'm Uma. Get out of here, yes. Get out of here, yes, say. Yeah! Oomba, oomba, oomba. It's raining on me. Oomba, 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 oomba. Say it loud. Come on, Oomba. Tell him Oomba. Yay, sunny again.
I am speaking and you don't hear me. I am standing and you don't see me. I look for truth and you deceive me. My heart aches. My spirit tires. I am almost gone, like the ceremonial fires. The name I have is a substitute for another, the one that was given me before I lost my mother. Who can help when you're not seen by the world? Forgotten completely with the passing years, you cannot feel these heavy tears. A chair about la terra, a chair about la terra, a chair about la terra, a chair about a chair, a chair back 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 la terra, a chair you. Yay! Say wash your hands.
Wash your hands.
Chasant la puske. Oh, yummy ya akunu. Katemeta isyamuhime.
Ale to all of my homo relations. Today we're going to go over vowels in Uma. So in English, we have A, E, I, O, U. But in Uma, we just have A, E, I, U. There's no O in Uma, literally, the word or the language. So A sounds like ah, as in ba ba black sheep. E sounds like eh. If you've ever told anyone meh, that's the noise you're going for. I sounds like E, so the final I in magazine, or the Y in tiny. Also remember I
Okay, gonna go on.
Hey.
It's just the phone is good and I can hear you.
Am I
You're a little sideways.
okay?
There we go.
Better? Okay, great.
Is that gonna let you do the landscape, I guess. But that's
Yeah.
good.
Let me see if I can get my headphones. Next point. Let's see.
Okay. Yeah, definitely.
Ah. Maybe. Okay.
Okay.
Close.
So I'm gonna switch. Oh, you can do immersive. Oh no, that's not good. I'm not gonna worry about that.
Like I'm telling ghost stories. I need to move this somehow. Ah. I'm so grateful for everything I've learned in the past 8 hours.
10 minutes.
I said I've learned so much in the past 8 or 10 hours on how to do this. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you. I'm gonna just
Okay.
double check the view on YouTube right now. There we go. Cool.
Let me grab my my iPad so I can make sure I'm monitoring Twitch.
Okay. Multiple devices.
Oh my gosh. So many. Okay. Great.
Okay. So we got microphones. We got, well, you have a microphone, headphone. I've got the webcam. I've got my phone. I'll probably switch video at some point. But yeah, we can I'm gonna go ahead, pull up the graphic here.
Okay, great.
So a quick reset in about 1 minute.
Okay. It looks good on. Great.
All right, and we're live. So Henny Hotu ima Jean-Luc Peritisa ima Tayoronagud Haraik Etisa. Hello, my name is Jean-Luc Perit, and I'm speaking to you from the traditional Indigenous territory of the Massachusetts Nation, who continue to this day in part through their lineal descendants, the Massachusetts tribe of Ponkapaw. This is my kitchen in JP, not Jefferson Parish. This is Jamaica Plain, Massachusetts. And I just want to thank Bvlbancha Public Access and Haley Daradar. Haley, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Lito, Seachefiat Haley Darda, Omasea. Hello, my name is Haley Darda. I am Homa. I'm currently on Pacastaway land in Washington, D.C. And yeah, so I'm the person on the ground who still has internet access and is not picking up sticks, who's part of Bvlbancha Public Access, a project started by Haley Dardar, Ida Aronson, and Jeffrey Garensberg. And we're really excited to have, we're not really excited that Jean-Luc's here. We're kind of sad that this is happening, but we really appreciate Jean-Luc stepping in and doing this.
Thank you. And yeah, I just wanted to before we begin, I have some sage here that was gifted. So I'm just a little background on me. I'm here in Boston, Massachusetts territory. I'm president of the North American Indian Center of Boston. And we were gifted on a trip to Millinocket, Maine. We were gifted some white sage by Wabanaki Public Health. So I just wanted to start off this session, just kind of centering ourselves, and really just kind of thinking about, everything that has transpired, not just the past 24 hours, but like past week, past month, past years. We're not here as a product of a single event, a single storm. There are many storms that have been going on through all of our lives. 16 years ago, when the storm came to New Orleans, in many ways, we said that the storm was always happening. We always mourn like all of the different places that we don't have, that they ain't there no more. And we're very happy for all of the times, all of the things, everything that we've been gifted, all of the memories that we've had in these spaces. And we absolutely mourn the loss of any life or property. But we are who we are because we are the descendants of the survivors. We are the indigenous peoples from Louisiana. So this time is it's hard, but we have to kind of remember, we have to think about time, not just in seconds, minutes, hours, days, but think about years, think about generations, think about centuries, think about all of the things that we have endured to bring us to this moment. And we just enter into this space in gratitude because of all of that. So this is a bit of an undertaking because this is the first time And I'll move the sage a bit so I don't have the smoke blowing in the camera too much. We'll get some blessings. We'll make sure everybody gets their blessings, but want to make sure that the camera is a little clear. But yeah, this is a bit of an undertaking because put it by the fan. There we go. Much better. So yeah, bit of an undertaking because this is the first time. Thank you again to Bvlbancha Public Access for providing this space, providing this airtime, so that we can not just like reflect on what's happened, but actually tell people, a bit about who we are, who our families are back home, who our communities are back home, and then people that are seeing all of this for the first time and just becoming conscious of like our experiences and our stories, like how can they help us in this moment? So that's one thing. Yes, Haley.
Yeah, I'm hearing something, and I'm wondering if we can help name what's happening. I know that it's so present to us, but it may not have consumed everyone's life in yesterday for everyone else. So yesterday's stream was really about helping people who were on the ground. But Jean-Luc, I'm wondering if you can give a quick just recap of like what's been happening and why we're here today, and why are we on this Zoom, and what's IDA and what does it mean to us?
Yeah. So I think, I think a lot of things like, again, just going back the past 48 hours, within that time, 72 hours maybe. Within that time, Hurricane Ida, it went from a tropical storm, then it crossed over Cuba, formed into a hurricane, went over the warm waters of the Gulf of Mexico, and it made landfall. And this was, for those who had been watching some of the live streams or know some of the news or whatever, these types of storms, where winds exceed 150 miles per hour, almost a Category 5 when it made landfall, we actually have to go back to the 1850s in Louisiana history in order to see those types of storms. So this is something that, for many of our community members, who I don't want to say chose, but for many of our community members who remained at home, and some maybe not, but we've seen hurricanes before. They've come onto the land. We can ride it out and all of this. That's one thing. But this is something that we haven't seen for a very long time. And so that's kind of the significance of like just the impact. Going into the state, when it made landfall, we saw that the storm did not actually make landfall because Louisiana is not that beautiful boot that we see on political maps. Louisiana is very much covered in water. And so the storm made landfall, but then went into the borders of Louisiana, and sat over the marshlands that are there in the southeast. And so I had heard it called the brown ocean effect. And so, this is a system that had 2 eye walls, and it just sat there for hours. And because of that, many of our communities in Terrebonne Parish, in St. John Parish, some we're just now getting some light. So we're just now being able to assess what has happened physically to the landscape. Orleans Parish last night, all, you know, the city itself went completely dark. So, you know, when I woke up this morning to check the news, the first thing that I saw, you know, was just darkness and maybe like some police headlights and floodlights, you know, shining spots on the Harris Casino on Canal Street. So, you know, woke up and the landscape was in total darkness. So we're at a point right now where it's unsure. People are just now able to kind of like assess what has happened with the wind. In some spots, the water. There are people in the Place, I read last night, that had to escape the waters into their attics. And, you know, we're thankful for the Cajun Navy and all of their efforts to save some of those people. So it's a very fresh wound, but it's a very significant wound at this moment because of everything that we're faced with. And this is, you know, and I also want to, like, you know, just call out, you know, this is what we're faced with at the mouth of the Mississippi River. At the headwaters, we have our Anishinaabe relatives right now that are resisting, you know, praying, protecting the waters, the Mississippi headwaters from the Line 3 pipeline, trying to do whatever action they can to get the governor to act, to get President Biden to act. So we're at a point where, you know, from the headwaters to the mouth of the Mississippi River, our people need some show of solidarity. For this conversation, we're going to focus on, you know, what's happening in Southeast Louisiana, but, you know, all of us, you know, have all of our people in mind in this moment. So, Haley, did I miss anything?
No, I think that's good. And I think that we're going to continue to cycle back and talk about this. If I had to put what we're doing today into 3 words, I think it's kind of, you know, processing things together, assessing how we can help, and cooking some beans.
I know. And on top of everything, like I'm running around. I got my beans last night. They're on the they're off the stove. They've already soaked. And, you know, I was also like rushing, you know, getting all the tech together, cleaning my kitchen because, you know, I'm opening up the house here for everybody, and I don't want anybody to come up in the kitchen and say, "Oh, I don't like his stove is dirty," or like, "Oh, I wash my vegetables.
Wow.
If y'all got any, if anybody wants to say anything about the way that I cook, the way the kitchen looks, or anything like that, you know, let's keep our minds on the bigger picture.
I would love to get a kitchen tour at some point. You know, that sounds great. See the work that you've done. Yeah. It's like opening up your closet. It's a real thing, you know.
I know.
I really appreciate it.
Not even that. I don't want only in this space. I've only been able to like get this space under control for everybody. But yeah, let's so like you said, you know, we're here, we're making some red beans. So what I'm gonna do really quickly, I'm gonna switch to my webcam here, and I have, let's see, let me make sure my live. Okay, so you can see the chopping board, but I just want to make sure the YouTube live has the chopping board. I have.
That's some impressive tech you got going on. I don't know. It's cool.
Okay, impressive tech, but like, okay, here's like comment number one. Why, Jean-Luc, why are you starting off with the yellow pepper? Like, okay, that's what I had in my refrigerator. We're doing what we have in our refrigerator right now.
That's real.
So yeah, so first thing first for your vegetables, if you're cooking pretty much anything, from cooking like I know. Let me just say that. I don't know. It's just like it's no matter what the situation is, everybody's got something to say about the way that you cook. So I'm just gonna just say the way that I know. So we have what was called the Holy Trinity. You have bell peppers, onions, celery. That's your three base ingredients. And what we're gonna do for this whole thing, we're going to actually be building this part of the process. We're going to do some prep work to chop up the vegetables and everything. But then after like a switch over, we're gonna make a roux. Then put the vegetables in there. You can see that I already did some pre-cutting. So I have the seeds out already. I have the onion already peeled. I have all the leaves and the roots and everything off the celery. So, this is all getting ready to chop. All of that stuff, I didn't put that in the trash. I put that in a pot, and with just a little bit of seasoning, some lemon juice, I like to use apple cider vinegar. I put that and I set that so I can make a stock. So what we're gonna do, bravely, we're gonna start with chopping up this bell pepper.
Nice. Where did you learn? How did you learn how to cook beans?
How did I learn how to cook red beans? So it's a mixture. It's because my family is we have always been in Mississippi and Louisiana. My dad's dad is Joseph Breed Jr., our first tribal chairman for Tunica Biloxi, and his mom is Fannie Lou Ben Pirit, and she is from the Stand Pine community in Mississippi, so Mississippi Band of Choctaw Indians. And I always had kind of that mixture, and even like on my mom's side, my grandmother there, she's from Louisiana. My grandfather there, a lot of the genealogy points back to Mississippi. So we've always been in the Delta region. But regardless of like being kind of geographically close like that, you gotta it's almost like wherever you are, like how close you are to the river and everything, or wherever you are geographically, even within the Delta, everybody cooks very differently. Everybody has like, different types of ingredients and all of this. So it was just a lot of like watching grandparents, watching my mom cook. First thing I ever cooked in my mom's house was some scrambled eggs, and she was like, "Thank you very much. Don't ever do that again."
Oh no.
but from that, and then actually, like, it's actually kind of being away from home was what really taught me how to do what I do from on the regular, because you get away from New Orleans And then everybody, you tell everybody you're from New Orleans. What's the first question? Oh,
cook.
you
Yeah.
know how to cook. You know how to make that good food. I'm like, yeah. And then, and then they're like, oh, can you make that good food for me? But can you make it like, can you make it vegetarian? Can you make it like this? Can you make it like that? And it's like, oh.
Oh, Jean-Luc, let me tell you a story. One time I was making gumbo for people. I was just making a gumbo. And I was like, okay, let me invite people over to eat this gumbo. So I started, texting a bunch of people. And then somebody texted back, are you making it vegan because my girlfriend's vegan? It just kind of stuck at me. And I was like, no, I don't. I mean, there's nothing wrong. I mean, veganism is something that I'd love to get to a point of, but I'm not there yet. But it's like, but yeah, it was like, this is a cultural recipe, man. Like, I can't just make it vegan.
I know.
How it works.
And then you like try to go back home after all that mess. And then people will, see what you're trying to do. Oh, I think we got a little bit of echo.
Okay, is that better?
Yeah, I think that's better. No, people will try to see what you're doing in the kitchen, and you used to cooking for vegetarians and vegans and all of this. And the first question that people ask when you pull out all your ingredients, they'll be like, "Where's your meat?" It's like, how are you cooking without any meat? I
guess that segues into a question that we kind of wanted to address here too. Is like what it is to be, we're talking about it in the sense of cooking, but what is it to be not in Louisiana right now?
Yeah, and like, if you're away, if you and you don't have like andouille sausage like we know, or like Patton's hot sausage, or like what's some really like good, like if you were able to like go back home and just shop and then like bring something back up to where you are.
Honestly, I got a story about that. So for me, that's andouille.
Andouille, yeah.
It's just like, so andouille sausage is just kind of like a peppery smoked sausage. And I have had the darndest, I use it a lot for seasoning within my dishes. Like you rely on it as like this fatty component, the spice component, and also the savory meat component. It's just like this beautiful package. But like most thing is like around the idea of, oh yeah, you're going to totally have andouille sausage available. And so like all of my dishes now have been like a little bit less spicy, a little bit less smoky and flavored, because it's just a hard ingredient to find. I know one of my friends, Anna, whenever she goes back to Louisiana, she will pick up like a case of Mandu's sausage and she will smuggle it back into this part of the world and freeze it. And it's just like her entire fridge is filled with andouille sausage. So it was like, yeah, this is the most important ingredient that's most difficult to find.
Yeah,
how about you?
I remember. Yeah, I had like a little Paw Patrol cooler, and I was bringing back onto it and all this. The TSA didn't stop me.
Didn't stop.
Okay, go ahead. Oh my goodness. What else?
I'm peeling the onions.
Where like, if you wanted grits outside of the South, you had to go back home and then bring that with you back. Like, just like Quaker instant grits. I think well, no, though I would say like the Quaker instant grits. That's what my friend, when I was staying in the San Francisco Bay Area, my friend Malcolm, who graduated from Abramson with me back in New Orleans East, when I would go back home, I would, bring back a couple of boxes, because it was those instant grits from Quaker that were flavored, that had like the cheese and everything. Like I think there was like a
Mm.
couple of stores you could get grits from, but like to have the flavor ones, that was the trick.
Nice. All right, I'm
Yeah.
trying to set up with a webcam also. So I
Oh,
don't know
yeah?
if it's gonna let you in. Let me
Oh,
in.
okay. I'm gonna
See how this works.
okay.
Okay. Got
So
it.
just
Thanks.
make sure that when you okay, just make sure that you have one microphone on your side.
Yeah, working on it. Okay, how's that?
There we go.
Okay, good.
Okay. So how are things on your side?
So I'm trying to turn off the volume. Okay. Hey, is this better? Can you hear me?
Uh-huh.
Okay, great. Let's see if I can mute this. I feel like I'm 80. I am 80. Okay.
What was that?
I said I feel like I'm 80, and then I realized like I am 80. Like this is extremely difficult for me to do. Okay.
Don't worry, don't worry. I mean, we shouldn't be doing this like too professionally, too much like, you know, we know what we're doing, because then they're gonna be like, I like when Haley and Jean-Luc had this show. I want more of that. And we're gonna end up having a full-time job doing that.
If my full-time job, Jean-Luc, was cooking with you and like just talking, that's not a bad full-time job. I mean, there's worse things I've done.
But like the actual like I'm the television host and you're the producer sort of thing, or maybe or the other way around. I don't know.
I'm down with that. Absolutely, let's do it. Yeah, no, I think things are going good. How do you feel about, I don't know. I've been watching. Oh, I'm still having an echo. I'm really.
Okay. I'll let you.
Let me figure this out.
Yeah,
Okay.
figure it out and ask that question. Yeah.
Anita, so Jean-Luc, how did you make it so that I should just put myself on mute. Okay. This is figuring it out. No tech rehearsals here.
What was that?
I said we don't do tech rehearsals here. We just kind of jumped into this. Okay, sounds. Audio.
So yeah, so if you you want to put your audio, if you like the one that you have, the audio that you don't want to pull from, then just disconnect the computer audio from that one. Like
Okay, yeah.
any sound in or out on that device, and then you should be able to like just have the sound from your phone.
Okay, yeah. It's a speaker that's really popping me off. Let's see.
I think I'm gonna chop up this whole onion. So what I'm doing, just so that everybody has documented like all my steps and everything, I'm cutting along the stripes here, just like maybe like 1/8 of an inch or thereabouts. Cutting down that way. And then I'm gonna just go widthwise down this way. So that way we have all of our onion chopped up. And then I like to turn it, and I feel like the grip is kind of loosening up. But that's the thing about going back to learning cooking and everything. Just like trying to figure out how to do everything with what you have, being away from home, learning all the tricks from all sorts of different people. So it's it all gets kind of up in the mix. But but I went back to Marksville 1 year and I started making mock shoes over there, but kind of doing it like after like kind of being out and doing things on my own. My sister took one bite of the mock shoe and she turned to my mom and she said, "How come you didn't teach me how to cook like this?"
Oh no.
It wasn't. I'm sorry, Elizabeth. I know if you watch it or whatever. I don't know if you remember saying that. But that's what I surely remember her saying that. But I was like, it wasn't. It was my mama. It was my grandparents, and then everybody with all of their opinions out on the road like that, trying to get me to do stuff. Yeah, I like to kind of mash the garlic down. So I have the Trinity, but then I also have my garlic here. So I'm gonna take the knife, press it. That way it crushes up a bit, and then you can actually take the peel off really easily like that. This one, press it. Ooh, there we go. All right. Now, have we heard from anybody this morning? There were a couple of people that I was talking to last night, thinking about joining us. And then that'll probably be like a little bit later. But I just wanted to know if there was anybody that was hoping to get on and join the conversation within the next few minutes or so.
Hey, yeah, no, I was thinking about that, and I think we're gonna need to call people. So I was gonna kind of put my beans in and then maybe check in with people. I'm thinking that, a lot of people are gonna be out working in their yards, but it would be great if we can get, once we get the beans started, I think we should start working on the assessment part of trying to figure out what's done, and then the research part of trying to help people figure out what they need to do. I'm thinking it would be really great if I can I'm going to try to get Ida on the phone. Maybe there's one person I was thinking of calling. They've weathered out the storm in the United Home and Nation Tribal Center. And so they're kind of first line on what's going on in Houma, Louisiana. So we can kind of get an assessment on that. I know also Donnie Verdant with the United Home and Nation. He's at home. He's in Texas, but I think he has a pulse on what's happening in Lower Lafourche. That would be helpful.
Okay.
How about you? What were you thinking we could do?
Yeah, I also messaged. So I messaged. So we do it. So for all of the people on the live, we're doing a little back behind the scenes about who we're trying to get. But this is also part of the process of who have you reached out to? Have you checked in with this person? Have you checked in with that person? So, we're doing it live. But I sent a few messages. I sent one to Robert out here, Robert Caldwell. I sent one to Monique Verdun.
Okay.
So she and I think she said that we'll chat today. And then Andrew Jolivet,
Okay.
out in California, so it might be a little later before we are able to get in touch with him. But we want to make sure that we had local folks, but then also people that are from Louisiana and trying to get in touch with their family just like we are.
Yeah. Yeah, because it would be really great if we can get some on the Grand News, but I'm also aware of how difficult people talking to us is not their most important thing right now.
Yeah.
I want to make sure we're not stressing people out.
Yeah. So I'm gonna do a quick screen share here. just so that we have this quick check-in. So I've got my my vegetables chopped up, and I'm gonna do this before I jump to the next step. Um, so we started a few nights ago. We started compiling a list of like the tribes that are in the area. For tribes that have donation links, you know, we did a little hashtag here so that people can actually donate to the tribes. And then Intertribal Council of Louisiana, they have a few updates to trying to stay on top of that. Monique Verdun, who I mentioned earlier, from Another Gulf is Possible, they actually have like a really good, like, not just for people like outside, but people that go and, like, you know, just want to know, like, you know, what are the supplies that I need to get me through the next few days. Like, they'll have that on their page as well. So definitely, like, check out all of the donation links for all of our people that are viewing. I do want to just point out that, you know, now that we're kind of like, the sun is up and we're starting to assess, and as Haley was saying, you know, we have tribal centers that may be damaged, or, you know, just houses in general. We don't know, like, where water is right now, because, you know, we're here talking with everybody. But along the Gulf Coast, we have a lot of state and non-recognized tribes that have been there, and, you know, trying to, like, you know, just continue their way of life. And so, you know, things like this, absolutely a huge disruption. You know, this storm was characterized as something that was life changing for everybody within the path. So, you know, for our tribes along the Gulf Coast, we want to say that the impacts have been even more so. So definitely go through the list of tribes, and, you know, just where you can, you know, just help out. You know, Haley, do you want to just kind of like, do you want to add anything to that while I have the list up?
Yeah, I mean, we should definitely, I mean, this is just kind of like we have no visibility on the ground other than what we're going to talk about today. So it's not like I just want to make sure that this isn't like a all-encompassing list. Is that what we don't have on that? There's also, you know, there's a lot of things that are really interconnected. So there's also groups that are maybe not tribal organizations that are also mutual aid networks, and also people who are not necessarily categorizing people before they support them. So when we're thinking about maybe emergency immediate support, we're thinking, I personally think mutual aid networks might be the better way to, you know, get meals into people's hands. But there are a lot of roofs that need to be fixed. And that's not a today thing, that's a next week thing, that's months from now thing. So whenever you're thinking about like a longer term donation of something like fixing someone's roof, that's something where where we're trying to provide this list, so you can start thinking about different ways to provide a little bit longer and a little bit deeper support. I think today, and probably until, you know, next Saturday, it's just trying to get meals in hands and tarps on roofs and people into safe spots, and out of the water and dry. And that may not necessarily be, you know, tribal groups, although they're definitely supporting and positioned to help with that. Do you agree with that, Jean-Luc, or what do you think about that?
No, yeah. While you were saying all of that, it reminds me of some of the things that I was thinking about last night, because, you know, at least, you know, my process, like watching local news, and then going on social media and then trying to follow like the personal updates and everything. And then you kind of like understand, like from the social media aspect, you understand that like there are people that this is not on their radar. This is not a part of their reality. For to like pay attention to a historic storm hitting the Gulf Coast as it has, let alone the fact that on top of that, now they have to be confronted with something that they should have been doing in the first place, which is like understanding whose land they're on, who their host tribes are, and then cultivating those relationships. So for a lot of people who might be tuning in, who are outside of our community, this is there's a lot of educating, but this is not an educational tool. This is like after you have the consciousness of like understanding who the tribes are, and where to direct aid. And then once you have that, I think you go even further on that community level, and you understand like where those mutual aid networks are and everything. Like where this is one step of the process, but I think that people that really want to like support, be in solidarity, like there's a lot of like education that people need to do in order to understand like all of those things, like where the Gulf Coast is and who the tribes are, and like what when you get down to the grassroots level, like where the mutual aid networks are. So lots of steps, but we hope that through this broadcast, through this list, we'll go a little ways. Yeah.
I'm gonna text Ida to see if they're able to hop on. Not right now, but just see if they're available today.
Okay. Okay. So while you got that, let's see. I'm gonna go. Ooh. You don't want to see my face. Well, you don't want to see my face here. There we go. Look at my flow. So just in the way of kind of doing the kitchen tour here. Here are some of the ingredients. Use what you have. Some all-purpose seasoning, some lemon juice, some vinegar. I use all of that, and the vegetable parts that I wasn't going to use. I have that going. I need to cut this fire down. I have like a little stock going here. I'm gonna put that fire a bit. And then you can see I have the beans here. They've been soaking. I put like a little bit of seasoning just to see like as they're soaking up that water, they can soak up a little bit of seasoning as well. Then I got my cast iron skillet, which I did not use soap and water to clean.
No.
So there is the cultivation that's happening. Don't worry. I'm gonna what I'm gonna do with this. My next step, what I'm gonna do. And I don't know like what your process will be, Haley, but I'm gonna make a roux, and then put the vegetables in, and then put the beans in.
Oh wow!
Yeah. I saw some recipes that didn't have a roux, so I was like, okay, some people do that, and that's okay. But when I do it, I usually like, that's how I take care of things.
Yeah, I'm just putting onions. The way I make beans is I like brown my onions, put my meat, and then kind of slowly add my sauce. I don't think I'm even putting any vegetables other than onions. I don't think I have any.
What?
Some peppers to work.
You cut out a little bit. What happened?
I'm just digging in my fridge. I just found some peppers. So
Oh, okay. Okay. So
how are you feeling about all this?
I'm in that unsure place with everybody. Like you know, we're still waiting on, you know, how points west of New Orleans are making out. My nan, my uncle, they stay at Norco. And we haven't really, seen like updates last night too much about like what's going on, except for like, what some people were able to kind of make out, in the darkness.
Yeah.
So there's that, but what concerned me was like next town over in Laplace, you have people going, into their attics, and being rescued by people putting the calls out to the Cajun Navy, which I mentioned earlier, and on this. So I think it's just sort of like, again, like, this is good right now that I'm actually being active and doing something and communicating and trying to get resources out there and staying busy. Like that's what's helpful for me. But I'm also doing this, conscious of the fact that like the last update that I've allowed myself was 6:30 in the morning here, 5:30 in the morning there, when Canal Street is completely dark except for the police lights. So we're coming out of darkness, and trying to get some clarity.
Yeah, I had a hard time with that this morning. I feel like three things. The first is that like I realized that this is the first storm that it was like a crux of things for me. Like this is the first storm that I've watched social media on. So like before this, I felt like, selfishly storms didn't really bother me too much. They were either not hitting Louisiana or like not hitting a place within my community. So it was like, I heard about them, I cared about them, but it wasn't like a direct watching. And then the other thing is that I just didn't have as many people and contacts within the cone of uncertainty. But in this storm, I felt like everyone I knew was in the cone of uncertainty. And that's like, it was strange to watch on social media, like the amount of content that you're getting. Because the last time I was in a storm, when you're in the storm, you are in the storm and that's it. Like you're not checking social media, you're not out there, you're just, usually don't even have a lot of power. So you're not able to see, or not as much internet. So you're not able to like really see what's happening. And so I felt like this was the first storm where I saw so many videos of the wind and the water while it was happening. I had never seen that before. In other, younger storms like Andrew and Katrina, social media wasn't as big. So it wasn't, I don't think I had never really prepared myself to watch that much, hurricane content. And I guess that was another thing of just like, I need to, as I stream, I'm thinking like, oh, I should be on social media a little less so it doesn't impact me as much. But yeah, and just, so that was a note that I had, was like how much of my stream was there and then how much of it just went silent after a while, when people kind of were in the thick of it and just kind of concerned about, when you weren't seeing hurricane content, it felt like worse, and just watching Twitter last night when I was watching, when you could like watch it unfold as the levee broke in Laplace, and then the immediate social media calls of people, hashtagging the Cajun Navy, giving them their address and letting you know where they can be found and how many people and how many dogs. And scrolling through that and just like taking that in was a lot for me. I can't imagine what it was like to go through that. That's gotta be worse.
Okay. So I'm going to. I'm talking to my stove, but I need to like also project towards the towards the laptop. So can you hear me all the way over there?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So what I'm doing right now is just I have half a cup of vegetable oil, half a cup of flour, and I'm just stirring that on a medium fire, and I'm gonna just like wait until when you do this, you have your wooden spoons, but they get burnt, they get dark, and then you have kind of that little gauge there that will say like, oh, okay, that's the color it's supposed to be. So so I'm gonna keep on stirring until this gets a bit nice and brown. Cut the fire a little bit. Yeah, and usually, thank you for, I mean, just even like just the ability to kind of like be here and talking like this, because usually what I'm doing is I'll cook like on Sundays, and like put on WWOZ and just like kind of zone out.
It's funny because this is the same thing that ended up happening. It was gumbo, but it was the same thing that ended up happening for Mardi Gras this year. Mardi Gras was canceled, and it was really hard for people. And what ended up happening was I just called people on Skype, and we made a gumbo and just talked and caught up, and it became like this thing that happened. So it's funny that later, for another coping or consideration here, we're back at the pot talking.
Is it would it then be like, can you talk a little bit about like what's coming up for Bvlbancha public access? Or is that a trade secret?
It's not a trade secret. It just doesn't feel like what's important right now,
Okay.
Like I'm definitely gonna we're gonna totally can tell you guys about that, but it just doesn't feel like this is the moment to like platform on that. It's more than just kind of thinking about what's happening and how we can help out.
Yeah. Where
I'm just scrolling through text right now, and I'm seeing that the cell and landline service is down in Lafourche. That it might be difficult to get in touch with people.
Oh, okay.
Looking through. Let's check the other group text. Let's see what. I can't help but thinking that, like, you know, if we're thinking back of the flood of, I think it was like, when was the flood? I think it was 1923 or 1924. When the Mississippi River flooded, you know, there was this.
I think it was 27.
Hello?
I think that one was 27 because
27.
yeah, in Marksville, they're always talking about the 27.
Yeah. But from what I heard from people on this is that it, you know, it was barreling. The Mississippi River had enormous rains from, you know, snow melt and spring water from the north. And it was barreling down to, you know, the coast, and people were concerned if the levees would fail or not in New Orleans. And so what they ended up doing was opening the floodgates, I think in St. James, to work as a sacrifice zone to save New Orleans. And it was just this, it was just like in the memory of people for a very long time, the bitterness of how agriculture sustained the state, you know, and how trade is important, but maybe not all of the business, and how easy it was for New Orleans to sacrifice, you know, sacrifice that part of it. And, you know, seeing that it was mostly Black and brown people who were living in that area, and how easy it was for people to just not consider it important, those farmlands are not as important as themselves. And it just made me think of the, you know, the structural racism that is built in these walls, and how, you know, how we build our walls, you know, that we build our walls to strategically fail in ways that, you know, are patterned in like,
Yeah.
I don't think it's an accident that it was La Place that flooded rather than New Orleans this time, is I guess what I'm saying.
Yeah. No, like and I'm here. So I have my slave rebellion reenactment T-shirt from November 2019. It actually started just like a few blocks away from where my uncle and my aunt and aunt stay in Norco, and we went down the levees, and you know, and reenacting the 1811 German Coast Uprising, largest slave rebellion on the mainland after the Haitian Revolution, so inspired by the Haitian Revolution. But you know, having that experience, and like being in that space where the plantations are still there, but the landscape is also accented with the oil refineries. You know, I think that it, and then having to, like, you know, voice out these chants of resistance from the ancestors, like it really called to mind, like, you know, we can go back, you know, 1927, 1811, like all of that area is just kind of scarred by how little we value the lives of others. And it shows even today. So yeah, so some of what you're saying about like not being surprised about Laplace, like, you know, it's some of the same, you know, it's always like some of the same things, and it's always like poor people, Black and brown people, like we're always the ones that have to kind of to suffer for the progress of like the overall experiment of the United States. And
rural areas too. You know, like there's this feeling of, maybe not, you know, directly, but there's a lot of people within those areas that are just I feel like people feel more voiceless within rural areas than they maybe do in larger populations.
Yeah. Okay.
There was one tweet that I read yesterday that was like really frustrating. It was an ex-senator from, I think from Lafourche. And he was saying, you know, Louisiana senator was saying, it breaks my heart to look at people in the eye who say they're not leaving because of a choice, but also knowing that they don't have anywhere to go or don't have anything, and knowing that I can't take them with me. And it upset me to read that tweet because it was like, you're a senator, my dude, like developing and advocating for, civil infrastructure should be your daily job. And if it's so far from you to understand that that is part of your job, then, that you feel like you need to be comforted when you're brought on situations when that fails, it just was upsetting.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, so much of what our people are going through, both around the headwaters and the mouth of the Mississippi River, up and down the river. Like, I was thinking that, all it is to some of these people is like a little bit of ink on a piece of paper, and something is done. Meanwhile, like, our people are in harm's way, or some of them are resisting by chaining themselves, using their bodies to chain themselves to like machinery. And I just think about like the value from both sides. Like, is all of this human life worth like you finally being convinced that you need to put something on a piece of paper with ink? Like, how do you look at that value system where we're at today, and really think that this is something that is like that's just for everybody? I can't. So
Yeah. And like, we're so far removed from seeing that it just feels, it's like it takes something extremely large for it to make it visible, just because it's like so patterned. And just feels, and it just like assumed so natural. Another tweet that I heard that was, I wanted to get your opinion on, Jean-Luc, but I also like just kind of had some thoughts on, was someone in Colorado asked, so we put up the list of donations of places to go in tribal centers and communities. And someone's comment was, can you help me find the best one, or which ones need it most? And something like, I'm sorry to ask it this way, but I'm just not sure. And I had a few like feelings around that. First of all, it was like, my first feeling was obviously anger and frustration. I was just like, you can't ask us that. But then it was like, yeah, actually we put it out there because we're the people you should be asking that question to. And then the other thought that I had was, so how would you determine that? And then the third thought that I had was, why are we living in a place where that has to be determined? I'm feeling like, after a disaster like this, something that happens really quickly is, reporters and journalism kind of moves into an area to assess and communicate what's happening. And people are almost, they're not looking for anything more than the only thing that is important, or the only thing that we seem to value as like a larger community consuming media, is the story.
Mhm.
And so it makes this absurd competition between communities of like, how do we be the most hurt by this? And it stops like any kind of cohesion and healing, and almost makes people pause and stay in this pain a little bit more, just so that their story can get out, just so that because it is important for communities to get their story out. A storied community versus a non-storied community is like there's a massive difference in what's capable. There's a massive difference between healing faster, and sometimes that's just individual people being held in their pain longer, or communities like being asked to develop hyperboles of something that's already traumatic and already terrible as it is, just because some media source is trying to make a better story. It just feels like, I feel like the question was an honest one, and I feel like it's a question that if we're playing this game, it needs to be asked. But I don't think we should be playing that game, and I don't know how to get out of that game.
Because if we were really honest about climate change and doing something about it, I think the bands of Biloxi, Chitimacha, Choctaw, especially Ile de Jean Charles, and Chief Albert, like that would be front page news every day. Yeah. If we really like, if the world was really like committed to like doing something, to like say like the first climate change refugee community is here, and and because of like all of these systems, there are so many different obstacles to overcome to get to like some kind of just resolution to that. But I think that it's only in these moments, and Lord forgive me for quoting Oprah Winfrey, but I just remember like one of the images from Katrina was when Oprah went down to New Orleans, and she was like, the Band-Aid is ripped off, and you can't ignore it. But what you're talking about is like when we go past the moment, when everybody is just kind of like, okay, that things seem to be handled, everything is good. It's like, no. We've been recovering from Katrina. We've been recovering from all of this stuff. We still have, a climate change refugee community. Like that's still going on. It's not like, okay, goodbye, everything is good. But I think that it's what that takes is like all of that educational work from the individual side, from like activist groups, or whether it's environmental justice or racial justice, economic justice. We're seeing all of those issues come up in this moment. And this needs to be on all of those people's radar. And yeah, I understand like, what's probably preferred, like, people feel one way or the other about the Red Cross. And so, we don't want to like, go that route. We want to make sure that things are going directly, or we have like organizations that are very like closely aligned, or like an Indigenous led, but we still haven't really captured the mutual aid links within our list. But going back to like what I said about the list is like, first of all these people that are having their eyes open, like they have to have their eyes open that wherever they are in this country, there is some tribe whose rights are being infringed upon. once they realize that, and then once they realize, like, you know, the importance of what's happening back home right now, then it's upon them. Like, why do I need to tell you who's the best person to give to? Like, I shouldn't be making that. You should be like going, building relationships in a way that, you know, is like not self self-serving or whatever. Like, to say like, okay, I'm giving this because I can, and then that's it. Like, that doesn't work. What works is like, okay, I know you're here and I want to go forward with you, right? So that's not something that you can capture in that's something you can't capture in like just a link. Are you okay over there? I heard a cough.
Yeah, no, I just swallowed a bean wrong.
Oh, okay.
Fine. Yeah, no, and that kind of goes back to what you're saying about starting this, you know, having this conversation. It kind of goes back to the design principle of relationships over products, or how important it is to have relations and permissions, maybe more than it is to develop and create something. And the other thing that I heard with what you're saying there is, you know, how, you know, when we're talking about communities, it's like, why is the story the thing that's most prized? Like, when you're saying getting on people's radar and having a story or getting your story out, that's a product more than it is a relationship. Like, why are we settling for the fact that people know that we're suffering as success, you know, or something that we should be aimed at? It should be, you know, that's not the goal. That's maybe other people's goals, but it shouldn't be our goal to create a story. It should be our goal to create a change. And I feel like just wanting to create a story, or just being compelled to create a story from these media outlets, is stopping like one step away from change.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like, why aren't we just aiming for change?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like everything, I think everything that we do, when we do it in the right way, culturally, like, you know, if we enter a space, we have certain protocols, and I want to use that language, you know. I think, you know, just kind of like say it, like, just kind of like save ceremony as like something that's very specific to all of us. But I think that aside from that there's just protocols that, you know, we have to follow when we're entering into a space, or like holding something, like dignifying like the message in a certain way. So, you know, and that's not something that you can have access to if you're out to, as you're saying, like make a product out of something like that. That's not what you're gonna accomplish. If you're truly like sincere about like building the relationships and going forward, because this is something that, you know, for all of us, I think, you know, wherever we are in the world, we always wake up and we always think about what's going on back home, what's going on with other Indigenous peoples, and, you know, how can I represent where I'm from and build those relationships. At least that's my context. Like, I'm always thinking about like this is where my tribe is, this is what our history is, these are who my ancestors are. And regardless of where I go in the world, it never fails. Like there's always some sort of like little seed that's like, oh yeah, there's some history behind like, why I'm here, or there's like relationships, and it's like constantly having to like rekindle and remind people that, this is who I am, and this is why I'm here. Does that make sense?
Yeah, like it feels almost like, as we're asking people to cultivate relationships between, these communities, there's also this bit of, it makes me think that there's also this bit of relationship cultivation between that we should be constantly taking, which is like the relationship between who we are, where we're from, but then also connecting that to where we are currently and, the current state, and like better defining the relationship between where we are now and, physically, mentally, spatially, where are we versus, who is our community and where are they from, and what's our relationship between that, and what's the relationship between the different things that we do.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, that was just, when you were saying that, it was making me think of. All right, I'm putting my rice on.
Oh, you're all the way to the rice.
I got people to check in on. I'm just nervous I'm very nervous about people. I'm feeling like kind of tense being on this call right now, just because it's like, I feel like I should be checking in with individuals and making sure people are okay, but there's also the sense that it's like, it is important. Like, I think talking with you and doing this through this process is helping me out a lot, but it's also like helping people better understand what people are going through, and then also how to help out and stuff. So I feel like I'm just kind of rushing bean making, because I'm just in the process of like, okay, I need to make beans, and then I need to check in on people.
Yeah, well, that's the thing too. You need to like all our relations, and this actually comes from my friend Bert at Penobscot Nation, Bert Polcheese. A recent conversation we had talking about all our relations. Like, he said that it doesn't stop with the people, it's all of the animals and the plants and everything. And so, if you even like the food and everything, like, you have to just kind of just take your time. Sometimes, like, playing music for the food and everything, like, even that'll help, because it'll come out. You might rush the beans, and then you'll taste it and you'll be like, oh Lord,
Nothing's worse than rushed beans. I mean, you're right. I gotta be in the, like, this has been helping me a lot, just like better take my anxiety and put it into something that's, tangible, or just kind of work through process steps of like, okay, what do I need to do after beans?
Yeah.
To like focus on something else and try to,
Yeah. But
that's
it's
what next.
Yeah, but I was gonna say, like, if you wanna take a break at any point, if you need to jump off and take a breath, check in with folks. Don't rush your food, but don't let me hold you up. What we can do, because it's gonna take a little while. We can like take a little bit of a break while we kind of like figure out on both of our sides where folks are, and I can actually put the if you don't mind, I can like put the playlist on that just a couple of nights ago. So let's I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna pull up the playlist here, and do my screen share.
While you're doing that, can I rail on Instapot rice? So I used to have a beautiful rice cooker. I don't know, somebody gave it to me, and it was brilliant and it was beautiful. And then I was gifted this Instapot, which is great and fantastic, but I'm finding myself missing my rice cooker. I find that although the Instapot can do a lot of things, it doesn't do rice with the same amount of care as other things. So to let people know how I felt about rice right now. Every time I Instapot, I'm like thinking like, oh man, I mean, you can do it. It does it very quickly, but it's not necessarily the best. You can't rush rice. You can't rush beans. So.
Yeah, you can't rush rice. You can't rush beans. I do take like a couple of shortcuts. So let's not look at this logo here, because it's from a Spanish company that will remain nameless. But
what is that?
I said, well, I don't know if you remember the brand that we were boycotting that was from Spain, very popular brand.
What is the contents though? I didn't see the pack when you held it up.
Well, it's just parboiled rice.
Oh, pre-rice rice. Okay, all right.
Yeah. So that's what I usually use, because it is very tricky, and it's like rice itself is a very tricky thing.
Yeah.
And how much you cook it, how much water is in it, what do you put in, how do you cover it, where's your fire at? There's all those variables. And I do try to I do stick with a parboiled rice, so I can at least I get good results with that. Let me just, if I go straight like white rice or jasmine rice, anything like that, it's sometimes it gets a little al dente. Yeah, I'm gonna what I'll do is I will share a screen. I'm gonna go ahead and put these on. Now I put the shuffle on. So this full screen.
Boy, it's kind of shady. Son, where are you?
But if I'm gonna put it like just a little bit, so that if you need to like call at me or anything like this, or if you need to and then we'll review. All those things are kind of together.
It's raining on me. Say it loud. Tell him yay, sunny again.
Well, I would like to welcome you all to the National Museum of the American Indian today, and we have a special guest with us, Mr. Greyhawk Perkins, all the way from New Orleans. So we're really happy to have him here today. We're happy to have you here, and I'm going to turn it over to him.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Well, I'm glad that you guys came to visit me today. My name's Greyhawk Perkins. Actually, I got a real weird name. My whole name is about that long. And everybody asks me, it says, Andres Tiasla Bianake Abibioa, weird last name Perkins. But I'm of the Muskogean Nation. My mother is Homa in Choctaw, and my dad is Choctaw. And I grew up in New Orleans and below New Orleans and outside New Orleans. And in our area, in Louisiana, we have about 64,000 Native Americans. We have Cushatas, we have Chitimaches, we have the Homa, we have Choctaw, and we all live in New Orleans, in the Louisiana area, and it was really cool. In New Orleans area, below New Orleans, we have about 14,000 Native Americans that live there, that are Homa. And then we also have some transplant natives that live in our area. Now, I grew up in pretty much traditional native household. My grandmother was really traditional. That's who I learned a lot of my stories from, and a lot of things that I know was from my grandmother. And my grandfather was a great storyteller. And I just grew up, as I was growing up, it was just something that you did. You sat down, you listened, and they would tell you stories. And that's how we passed on what our ancestors did, and that's what I do today. I remember at, I guess her age, even at 3 years old, I would sit down and I'd have all these elders, and they would sit around the table at night, and that's what they would do. They would talk, because at the time we didn't really have television, you know. And even after television came along, I noticed that, you know, during the time when the family got together, which was regular. I mean, you know, we all lived around each other in the community. That we would, they would sit down and they would start telling stories and they would start talking. And I just got to the point where I would sit either under the table or right by the door, and I'd start listening. And I was just happy that I had that time. I was in that transition area in our culture in New Orleans, where in '63 was the first year that Native Americans were openly allowed in public school in Louisiana. And so a lot of our people were not exposed to a lot of the outside world in a lot of ways. I lucked out, you know. We moved up into the New Orleans area, and I was able to experience both cultures. I still was able to be around my grandparents weekly, and I was still able to see what was going on in the outside world. And so a lot of my stories have to deal with both the transition, the old traditional, and a lot of stories that I see today in our communities and our kids and people go through. And I'll use a lot of animals in my stories. I'm going to talk about one of the stories, and it was funny because I went outside earlier and I looked at what we had around the museum, and I started looking at some of the plants. And they were starting to give me ideas of different stories that we had. And I looked down there, and there was a plant that I noticed downstairs, and I automatically said, I got to tell this story. And we're going to use Samantha in this story. The main person, or the main character in the story, is going to be called Samantha today. How's that sound? Pretty good? Okay. Well, there was this plant, this little plant, about that big, and she was so lonely. She would sit there and she'd cry all day long. Oh, I'm so lonely. And all the animals and plants would never come around her. You know why? Because the poison that she had been given to protect her was so intense. It was so strong that if any animal or plant came by, they would get sick and they would die. And no animal or plant, even grass, would go around her. And she got so lonely. She'd look up at the sky and say, Abamiko, please, please, I'm so lonely. What can I do? And the Creator looked down and says, what do you want? And she says, I'm lonely. I got too much poison. Nobody likes me. And the Creator goes, well, what do you want to do? She says, I want to get rid of this poison. Then all the animals I can be friends with. Creator says, okay, this is what we'll do. Today, if you can find 3 animals that would take your poison equally, then I'll let you get rid of the poison. But if you don't find any animals before the sun goes down today, you have to keep the poison. Is that a deal? And the little plant, Samantha, says, yes, it's a deal. So the Creator left it at that. She looked up at the sky and she said, Abamiko, Abamiko, please, I want to get rid of this poison. Help me talk to all the animals. And the Abamiko said, okay. And she was able to talk to all the animals. And she said, animals, plants, I have poison to protect you if you want it. Come and get it. So she waited. She sat there and she waited and she waited. And time went by. And she's watching the sun and it's starting to move. And she's getting worried because no animals are coming. And finally, she sees the grass separating. It was doing this. What do you think that was? That was a snake. And it got right to the edge of where there was mud and no grass, and it looked over at Samantha the plant, and they said, I heard you getting rid of some of your poison. I'll take it to protect me. And Samantha the plant said, I will give you the poison if you promise me this. Snake says, whatever, I'll promise you anything. I'll take if I can get the poison. Plant said, you have to warn anyone first before you bite them. You have to give them a warning. Snake thought about it, said, I can do that. It was a nice snake. So the snake said, I will do this. If anything comes up to me, and it looks like it's going to hurt me, I will cock my head back and open my mouth and shake my tail, and they'll see the white inside of my mouth and know that if they don't back up, I'm going to bite them. Plant goes, sounds like a good deal. It's okay, I'll give you the poison. And the snake tells her, thank you, Yokoki. Turns around and slithers off and kept its promise. It's the cottonmouth water moccasin. When you walk up to a cottonmouth and you get close, it cocks up. The whole half of its body, and it cocks its head back, and it just opens its mouth, and you see that white inside? That means back up. Because if you don't, then it's going to get you. Kept its promise. So the plant's still sitting there, still looking around and hoping that somebody else comes. He's still got 2 pieces of poison to get rid of. Well, sun's way up in the sky, and all of a sudden that little plant sees something else coming through the weeds, through the grass, and it stops and it looks over at Samantha and says, I came to get some poison. I heard you getting rid of some poison. Could you please give it to me? I could use it to protect myself. Samantha says the same thing. I will give you the poison if you promise me that you will warn anyone before you bite them. Give them a chance. Snake sat down and thought about it. Sat down and thought about it and said, I got an idea. If anyone comes near me and they get close and they look like they're going to hurt me, I will rattle my tail. And if they don't back up, I'll bite them. Plant goes, sounds like a good deal. You can have the poison. And the snake said, thank you, Yokoki. Turned around and slid it off. And that snake has kept his promise. If you run up a rattlesnake and you stop and you look like you might hurt it, it's going to do this. It'll back up. And if you don't take and back up from it, what do you think that snake's going to do to you? It's going to bite you. But that's your warning. Well, time goes by a little bit more, and that sun's just getting down in the sky, and it's about right there. And the plant is worried. Plant's worried because if that plant doesn't get rid of that last bit of poison, she gets it all back. She had to get rid of all of it. So, the plant starts crying. The plant starts crying, and all of a sudden, through the weeds, through the grass, you see this really fast coming through. But it's real small. And it gets right at the edge and it says, hey, plant, I want your poison and I want it right now. The plant goes, whoa, wait a minute, you are rude. Howling at me like that. The little snake goes, excuse me, I'm here to get your poison. I want it now. Give it to me. I know you got to get rid of it. I heard that you got to get rid of it by the end of the day or you're going to get it right back. I want it right now. And the plant says, you are rude. I'm not giving you any of my poison. Snake looks at it and goes, you got to give me the poison. You have to give me the poison. Plant says, I don't have to give you the poison. I'm going to wait. Snake says, you can wait till the rest of the day, but nobody's going to come. And the plant says, why? Because I told every animal and plant that you got rid of the poison already. So now you got to give it to me. Ooh, that was a sneaky little snake. She said, no, I don't believe you. He says, yep, I did. You don't see anybody coming, do you? And she said, I'm going to wait a minute. She said, I'm going to give you 5 minutes. I'll come back. And the snake slithered off, and she waited and waited, and she goes, oh, my goodness, the sun's going down. Snake comes back, you ready to give me the poison? She says, I guess I have to, but I really don't want to, but I have to. She said, can you promise me this? He says, I'm not promising you anything. Just give me the poison. And she says, well, listen to me. If I give you the poison, will you warn anyone before you bite them? And the little snake looks at her. I'm not warning anybody. Look at me, I'm little. If they come near me, they look at me, they even look at me cross-eyed, I'm going to bite them. And she thought about it. She looked at the sun. She didn't want that poison back. So she looked at the snake and she said, snake, it's against my best judgment, but here you go. I'll give you the poison. Snake took the poison, didn't even say thank you, turned around and left. That snake was a pygmy rattlesnake. And if you see a pygmy rattlesnake, you put your hand down, you go anywhere near, it's going to bite you. It kept its promise. It's not even going to warn you. Now, all those 3 snakes went off, and before you know it, the grass started growing around that plant. And the butterflies started coming, and the bees were coming, and the animals were coming. She was so happy. Samantha was happy. And you know what? She became the marigold that we know now, that became a plant that you can make medicine to help bites and get rid of poison. And that's the story of Samantha, the marigold, and how those 3 snakes got their poison. A true Muscovian tale. Thank you. I hope y'all enjoyed that one. You like that? You know what? That's your story now. You can tell that for the rest of your life. It's the Samantha story. Yes, indeed. I like that grin. She's happy about being the marigold. Oh, you want to hear another story? How about a song? You want to sing with me? Yeah. Well, I'm going to do a song. Here where I live, you know, we do have some drum songs. We don't have many, but we have some drum songs. But most of our songs are call and answer, and they're done with rattles. Now, we do have a thing we call stomp dance, where the women wear rattles on their legs, and the men sing, and the women keep the rhythm. Well, since I don't have ladies with rattles on their legs, I'll use my rattle here. And hey, you guys, come have a seat right there. Y'all come on and sit in front. Don't be shy. Have a seat. Oh, y'all gonna sit together there? I'm gonna have to look at those dots right there. Okay, all right. Now, what we're gonna do is we're gonna get everybody to help me out. It's a call and answer. Now, usually we answer back what we're calling out, but I'm gonna just get you guys to repeat what I holler out. Now, we're going to give it a test. I'm going to see what's your name? What? Juliet. And what's your name? Erica. That's Samantha. Samantha, meet Juliet and Erica. Say hi. All right. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to test you. I'm going to get you, when I point at myself, I'm the only person talking. When I point this way, that means you got to repeat me. Now, the more people that show up at our dances and sing, the more people. Native Americans, we don't go to any function without bringing food or gifts, mostly food. And everybody brings food, so the more people that show up, the more food shows up. And the more food shows up, the more we get to eat. Anybody like to eat? You like to eat? Yeah, all right. You don't like to eat? Oh, you like to eat. Now, if you sing real loud, you get to eat first. So we're going to see who gets to eat today. All right. I'm going to start. We're going to use 3 words. Okay? We're going to go, yo.
Yo.
Woo, she's going to eat. All right. Yo.
Yo.
Ooh, now we got 3 people that are hungry. All right, let's see if these guys are hungry. Yo.
Yo.
All right, let's have everybody together. Yo.
Yo.
Yo, eh?
Yo. Hey.
Uh-huh. All right, yo means yes. Yo way means yes indeed. What do you think uh-huh means? Uh-huh. Yeah, uh-huh. That's what it means. So we're going to try this song. Yo. Your turn. You got, all right. I know what a flat tire sounds like now, I tell you. Yo, eh? I'm by myself, I'm louder than y'all. All right. Yo, eh? Uh-huh. He-yay. 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 Ho-yo. Ho-yo. Hey-yay. Hey-yay. Hey-yah. Hey-yah. Hey-hey. Now he-yay. Woo. Hey-hey. Now he-yay. Ho-honey. He-lo-na. Hey-yah. Ho-honey. He-lo-na. Hey-yah. He-lo-na. Hey-yah. Yo-ho-way-yah. Hey-no-way-yah. Hey-no-hey-tuma. Hey-no-hey-zani. Yo-ho-way-yah. Hey-no-way-yah. Aha. 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 Hey-yay. 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 Hey-yah. 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 Hey! Yo-ko-ki. This guy's hungry, man. I tell you. All right. I think he's gonna eat a big lunch this evening. Yeah. Hey, I went to Fuddruckers. They got big hamburgers over there. Yeah. So y'all did good. Give yourself a hand. Y'all did real good. I got another story, and you know I like to do stories about where I'm from, and that's what I do. I'm a Southeastern native. Oh, it was a pleasure. Glad y'all came by. I'm a Southeastern native. I'm from Louisiana, and all the stories that I have deal with where I'm from. I'm going to do 2 stories for you guys. One of them is about Lake Pontchartrain. It wasn't called Lake Pontchartrain a long time ago. We just called it a big old pond. Now, a long time ago, there was this big pond. We call it Lake Pontchartrain now. And we had catfish in that pond. And those catfish were huge. They were big. Well, one day, the Miko catfish was our leader. Miko catfish, he would swim every day. And he'd go over to the north side of that big pond and go, "Hey, catfish, how you doing today?" And the catfish would reply and they'd say, "We're doing just fine." And Miko would say, "Do you need anything?" And the catfish said, "No, we got everything we need. Oh, we're perfect." And Miko, well, leaders like to hear that. And he said, "Good, I'll see you tomorrow." And he'd take off. And he swam over to the north side, the south side, the east side, and the west side of that big old pond. And that's what he'd do. He asked if everybody was, and usually they were all okay. They didn't need anything. Well, days and days went by, and he was making his rounds again. When we got to that south side of that lake, he asked the catfish, "How you doing?" They were fine. Then he swam to the north side of that lake. But something made him stop. He heard this sound. And the water was vibrating. He was going, "Ooh, I wonder what that is." And the catfish were waiting for him to ask the question. He said, No, wait a minute. Stay where you at. I hear something. I feel something. I'm going up to check this out. and he swims up to the top. He gets to the top of the water and he looks out over the land and he sees the trees and he sees something big running straight for that big old pond, full speed. It was running full speed. And as he's watching, it's getting bigger and it's getting bigger and it's getting bigger, and he goes, woo! If that thing don't stop and it hits this water, whew, we're going to be swinging in the trees tonight. That thing hits this water. So he swims back down. He tells all the catfish, he says, catfish, they say, what? He says, they got something big coming, and it's running fast, and it looks like it's not going to stop, and it hits the water. We're going to be swinging off the trees and the moon tonight. And he tells all the catfish, I want you to take your catfish teeth, and I want you to clamp onto the grass. That way you won't fly in the air. So all the catfish do that, do this. They clamp down. And they said, okay, we're ready. So he swims back up to the top. When he gets to the top, that thing is close, and he finally gets to see what it was. It was moving fast. It was running fast it could. He saw it. It was the biggest. It was the meanest. It was the hairiest, ugliest thing he ever seen in his life. It was the biggest buffalo he ever seen in his life. He was a catfish. It was probably the first buffalo he ever seen in his life. But it was running straight for that big old pond. And Miko goes, uh-oh. Miko's on top of the water, and this thing's running straight for him. If he hits that pond, where's Miko going to wind up? In the trees. Big old splash. Miko goes, oh! And Miko closes his eyes, and he braces himself for the impact of that buffalo. And that buffalo's coming. That buffalo's running. He's running straight for that pond. He gets right by the edge of that pond, and right when he gets right there to the pond, he hits that pond, and he stops. Good brakes. He stops at the edge of that pond, and he goes, woo! I am hot. I am tired. I am sweaty. And I don't smell too good. I think, you know what? I'll get some water. I'm going to get some water. And Miko's still like this because he's thinking that big old buffalo's going to hit the water. And he stops and he looks up, and there's that buffalo right there. And he listens to the buffalo. The buffalo says, I'm going to drink me some water. And the buffalo sticks his head down in the water and goes, starts drinking that water, and the water level just starts going down. And Miko goes, oh my goodness, if that big buffalo don't stop drinking this water, we ain't got no place to live. And finally the buffalo stops. Buffalo said, I'm not thirsty no more, but I'm still hot and I'm sweaty and I still don't smell too good. Buffalo looks at that water, woo, that's going to feel good. And the buffalo jumps right in that water and starts going back and forth and back and forth and back, just like a big old buffalo washing machine. Whoa, going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And Miko's riding the wave screaming, woo! And finally the buffalo stops, gets out of the water and shakes off. But boy, that water is dirty now. And it don't smell too good. Ooh, Miko was upset. And Buffalo's getting ready to walk off. And Catfish goes, hey! Buffalo goes, huh? Catfish says, me, I'm talking to you. Hey! And Buffalo turns around and looks down at Catfish, and he says, huh? Catfish, the nerve of you! Coming here, drinking our water, jumping in, dirty and all. You didn't even say please, thank you, or nothing that you could even ask. And the buffalo turned around and went, huh, and walked off like nothing happened. Ooh, that Miko got mad. That catfish got so mad. That catfish got so mad he almost turned into a redfish. That's how mad he got. But he calmed down, because he had to think about all those catfish. He's a leader. He had to think about all those catfish, and maybe they got hurt. So he swims back down. He gets back down to the water, and boy, them catfish, they've been holding on, But boy, they shaking up. And he asked them if they were all right, and they said, yeah, we're all right. We're just a little shaken up. And the water was so cloudy because of the buffalo making the dirt come up and all. And Miko said, what am I going to do if that buffalo comes back and does that again? We won't be able to live here. Miko starts thinking, what am I going to... Oh, he got an idea. He told all the catfish, get a good night's sleep in case that buffalo comes back. I got an idea. He says, when that buffalo comes back, every catfish get on the bank of the big lake, big pond. And when that buffalo jumps in the water, catfish got something a lot of fish don't have. They got stingers. And when that big old buffalo jumps in the water, we're going to sting him. You got 10,000 catfish jumping on you, you're going to get stung. So that night, they all get a good night's sleep. They wake up the next morning, they get along the bank of that big old lake. Guess who showed up? Who do you think showed up? Buffalo showed up. Buffalo showed up. He's running. Y'all come sit down. He's running. He gets to the edge of that big pond. He does it again. He looks up. I'm hungry. I'm thirsty. I'm all this. And he jumps in the water and he starts to roll around. But this time, he's got a surprise. 10,000 catfish jump on him. And they sting him in the head. They sting him in the eye. They sting him in the thigh. They stung him everywhere. And that buffalo jumped up going, woo! And he looked over. And guess what he saw? Big old Miko catfish. Tell him, get on! So Buffalo looks at that catfish as the leader, and he takes that big old hoof, and he goes right on that catfish's head. And he looked at all the other catfish, and before he got out that water, he hit every catfish on top of the head. Then he jumped out the water, and he took off running. And as he was going out of sight, you could hear him say these words, I ain't never coming back here. Them catfish are crazy. Now, ever since that day, if you come to Louisiana and you look out, you don't see no buffalo. Now, also, ever since that day, if you ever in Louisiana and you throw a line in the water and you pull out a catfish, check out that catfish's head. It's flat right on the top, because that's the day catfish became flat-headed, and that's the day there ain't no buffalo in Louisiana, and that's a true Muscovian story. Thank you very much. So now you know why catfish got flat head and there ain't no buffalo in Louisiana. Yeah. That's an old story. I learned that one growing up, and I love that story. That's pretty cool.
So, thank you to Greyhawk for all of the stories and everything. I'm just kind of tuning back into some of the cooking for just a minute. This is in the cast iron skillet. I have the red beans. I have some two tablespoons of butter. I'm just gonna, as this is cooking, as these beans are getting softer, I'm gonna add a little bit of seasoning to it. Make sure that it's nice. It has like good flavor to it. Has enough salt to it. Also, right here in this pot, I added the parboiled rice. So I did like I covered the bottom with some of the unsalted butter. Then I put the 2 cups of the parboiled rice in here, and then on top of that, I added 4 cups of the vegetable stock that we made earlier. So that rice is doing, and then the beans are doing. Sometimes up here I'll cook the beans and the rice together, but we'll do them separate for this time. So I'm gonna go back. I wanna thank Haley. We do have like a couple of couple of other people perhaps wanting to check in. So definitely want to thank Haley for the time. I'm gonna stick with everybody until this is ready. But what we're gonna do, we're gonna kind of mix between myself cooking, and then we're gonna do some of the storytelling as well. So I'm gonna go back to my screen share here. We heard from Greyhawk. I wanna bring in a couple of other tribes in here. Let's actually start with a water song by Morning Dove. So I'm gonna start the screen share back up again. Get back to Zoom. This is me, y'all. No producers, just me. Share. And we're gonna go to Morning Dove for this one.
I also belong to a drum group over there out of Canada because I'm a sun dancer, and I kind of have just a fraction of what the chief is going through, being without food and water. She's just on fish broth and lemon water. And I'm a sun dancer. A sun dancer is a person that stays without food for 4 days and without food and without water for 4 days. And we're out in the bush, and I've been doing this for years. But when I think that's hard, sun dancing for 4 days without nourishment, I can't even imagine what this chief is going through. As far as I'm concerned, she's a hero. And as far as I'm concerned, it takes somebody pretty, without very much upstairs, to not even want to speak to her. I mean, she's a woman. Don't they realize that their mom at one time was a woman too, out of respect for female, which we say is life givers? She didn't say they had to do what she wanted them to do. She just wanted at least to be heard. And I think it's pretty sad that a people that's trying to rule a country won't even give a woman a little bit of their time. That's the way So this is a water song.
cool story. And I got another one. I said that you guys are giving me these ideas. Yeah, I've been a storyteller all my life, actually. My grandpa was funny. He didn't talk to a lot of people, but when he did, he would sit down and he would share stories, mostly with us, with the kids. And my grandpa one time, I remember, pulled me over. I was a little bitty old kid. And he said, come here. And he would sit down, and he would talk to me, and he would tell me a story. Usually them stories were 10, 15, 20, 30 minutes long, sometimes an hour, depending on how long his story is. But one day he comes up to me and he says, sit down. And he told me the story. It was 5 minutes long. And I sat there and listened. He said, go play. I found that strange. 5-minute story, you can go play. Later on that day, he's sitting outside again. He calls me over. He said, come here. You know that story I told you this morning? Tell me that story. Man, I told him that story back. It was 45 minutes long. He looked at me and smiled and said, you're going to be a storyteller. The thing I learned from it, you get a story, no matter how long it is or short, you take all the things that you learned and the lessons that you learned, and you put it in those stories, and you make your stories teaching lessons, teaching stories. And that's the way our people did it. We'd look at things, we'd hear stuff, and we start putting our own lives into those stories and lessons that we learned, and we became teachers, not only storytellers, but teachers through our stories. And that's the way I do it. I've been doing it most of my life now. And you know what? I'm going to do this. I got a lot of stories I'm going to tell. Let's see, what we got here? We got Samantha. We got, what was your name again? Erica. And who we got here? Juliet. I can't forget that one, Juliet. Okay, who we got here? Oh, I like that. She's becoming part of my crew here. What's your name? Molly is 6 and Molly's in 1st grade. I love it. I teach kindergarten, so you know, I'm right below you there, but I'll be in 1st grade one day. All right. Let's see. We're going to think about a really good story. Let's see. I'm going to let you pick. I got so many stories in my head. Sometimes there's so many that I don't know which one to pick unless you tell me to pick one. Let's see. I'm going to name some animals. We got alligators. We already told a snake story. We got rabbits. We got possums. We got all kinds of stuff. Alligators. Everybody wants an alligator story? Oh, I got a great alligator story. I'll give you 2 alligator stories for the price of one. How's that sound? I'll give you one that happened to me, and I'll give you one that happened a long time ago. Which one you want? You want the one that happened to me first, or you want the one that happened a long time ago first? What was that? A long time ago. And what's your name again? Ella. Ella. Oh, Ella, that's a pretty, all these pretty names. I love that, you know. Who's that little young girl out back there? Julie? Julia. Oh, they wrote a lot of songs about Julia, I tell you. Now, let's give you the one a long time ago about an alligator. Oh, it was a pleasure. Samantha, it has been a pleasure meeting you. You are just one unbelievably adorable, gorgeous young lady. Yes. All right, it was a pleasure. I'm glad y'all made it. Glad y'all made it. Now, alligator story. Long time ago, there was an alligator. He wasn't like the alligator we know today. This alligator was big, but his skin wasn't all bumpy and crinkly like it looks today. It was smooth and nice and tan, and oh, he just thought he was the best thing in the world. That alligator would sit on that bank. He'd be looking around. Anybody that came by, he'd eat them or beat them up. He was a bully. Anybody like bullies? Nah, we don't like bullies. He was a bully. And he would do that, and everybody left him alone because he thought he was the best thing in the whole swamps of Louisiana. Well, he laid there one day and he went to sleep. And he's snoring. And all of a sudden he hears a sound. What's your name again? Ella. He hears a sound, and it's right here, about 2 feet from him in the high grass, and it's going. And it was Ella. She was a little rabbit. Ella the little rabbit, right there. And she was drinking up the water out that bayou. And the alligator goes, hey! And Ella goes, oh! And she looks over through the grass, and guess who she sees? That big alligator. And the alligator looks at Ella and says, Ella? He didn't know her name, but I'm telling you that. He says, Rabbit, why are you waking me up with all that noise? Was she making a lot of noise? She was just drinking. She goes, what? He says, you woke me up from my beauty nap. I'm going to get a wrinkle. And I don't want no wrinkle. Rabbit. And Ella goes, oh, what were you doing? She says, I was drinking water. Oh, you were drinking water out of my bayou? Out of my water? You woke me up. You know what? When I get woken up from my sleep, I'm angry. I'm tired. I'm cross. And I'm hungry. You know what I'd like to eat right now? Rabbit. What do you think he would like to eat right now?
Rabbit.
No, Ella told him. He asked Ella, or Rabbit, what do you think I'd like to eat? And Ella went, hamburger? Alligator said, I don't want to eat no hamburger, Rabbit. What do you think I want to eat, Rabbit? And Ella went, deer? Alligator said, I don't want to eat no deer, Rabbit. What do you think I want to eat, Rabbit? And Ella went, possum? She didn't want to say that word, rabbit. But the alligator looked at her and said, I want to eat rabbit right now, Rabbit. And Ella went, oh, her nose started twinkling, her hind legs were doing this. Now, everybody thinks that Ella could have just ran away. You don't know alligators that well. Alligators are fast. They'll run people down. I've been treed by them before. They're fast. On a straight run, you can't beat them. And that rabbit was right there, and there's no way that rabbit would have got away. Now, Rabbit, though, Ella, she was smart. She was a trickster. She looked over at that alligator and go, whoa, wait a minute, alligator. I know why I came here. And the alligator looked at her and said, you said you came here to drink my water. No, I got water, but I came here for another reason. Because you see, Ella knew that he was a bully and that he thought he was the best thing in the world. And that's what bullies think. If they think somebody's better than them, they get angry. She said, I came here to tell you that there's another creature out in those woods over there, in them swamps, that told me to come here and tell you he's bigger, better, and smarter and everything than you are. You think that alligator liked hearing that? That alligator said, tell that creature to come here. And Ella said, what? He said, go get that creature and tell him to come here. I'll go get him. She could get away now, right?
Yeah.
So she turned around to run off, and she said, not that easy. That alligator has eaten half my family, beat up half my friends, and been a bully for a long time. I'm going to teach that alligator a lesson. Now, how's a rabbit going to teach an alligator a lesson? She's smart. She's got brains, and she's a trickster. She looks at the alligator and said, nope, can't go get him. Alligator says, what? Can't go get him. He's not going to come here. You got to go to him. I got to go to him. Oh, no, he's bigger, badder. He's better than you. He's smarter. And he says, if you want to go see him, you got to go to him. Alligator said, bring me there. And Ella starts running. Now, alligators are good on a straight run, but if you zigzag, they're not that great. And Ella, boy, she was going to make that alligator hurt. She went in and out the big cypress knees and the trees, and he couldn't make those bends, and he'd, boom, run into the tree. Boom, run into the bushes. Boom, his nose was bleeding, and now Ella was running, looking back, going, She was laughing, and she stopped. She says, hey, alligator, what's the matter? You can't keep up with me? Whoo, that made that alligator mad. He ran even faster and beat those trees up with his nose even more. Then they got to the high grass in the marsh. And she told him this, stop right here in the high grass. I'll be right back. I'm going to go get him. Alligator's rubbing his nose like this. Okay, go get him. I'm ready for him now. Ella starts to walk off. And Ella stops. And she turns around and she looks at him. She says, alligator, I forgot to tell you one thing. What you forgot to tell me, the alligator said. I forgot to tell you that when that big creature gets mad, fire comes out his mouth. Alligator goes, excuse me? Fire comes out his mouth? Oh yeah, when he gets mad. And all of a sudden, alligator looks up and there's birds in the trees, animals in the trees, and they're all watching to see if alligator's going to back down. The bully. Alligator looks up and says, I ain't worried about that fire. Go get that creature. I'm not worried about that fire. Ella says, okay. She starts to run. She stops again. She turns around and says, I forgot to tell you one more thing. Alligator says, what? I forgot to tell you, when he gets really mad, his teeth get real long and sharp. Alligator goes, mm. His teeth get real long and sharp. Fire comes out his mouth. And Ella goes, yeah, I'm going to go get him. And Alligator starts to stop her and looks up, and there's more animals around. So he can't show that he's scared. And she said, I'm going to go get him. He says, okay. But he wasn't so mean this time. And right as she's gone, she knows she's getting him. She turns around and says, oh, forgot to tell you one more thing. He goes, oh, no, not one more thing. Oh, yeah, one more thing. When he gets real mad, his nails get real long, and he's got wings that come out his back. Ooh, alligator looks around, and there's more animals in the trees. Alligator says, wait, rabbit. I got an idea. I got to go somewhere. Could you just tell him I'll come back later? Oh, no problem. I'll get him. He'll be here real quick. Well, he might be busy. No, he's not busy. I'm going to go get him. I'll be right back. And she runs off. She goes to the back of the high grass, and she starts rolling on the grass and laughing because there ain't no such creature as that. She made it all up. He's in there shaking. Ooh, that big creature's going to come. He's going to burn me up. He's going to drag me in the sky. He's going to eat me. Oh, my goodness. And he looks up at the sky, and he says, hey, Abamiko, creator, I got to ask you a favor. I promise, if you let me out of this thing, I will be the best alligator in the world. I will never bite, hurt, or eat anybody up before, unless I'm hungry. He don't hear no sound. You see, when people get and animals get in a jam, and all of a sudden everything's going good for them, and all of a sudden they get in a jam, they start saying, please help me. But he didn't think about that until now. Well, nothing showed up, and he's still sitting in that grass. Rabbit hollers out, hey, alligator, I told him what you said. And he's mad. He's real mad. In fact, he's burning everything up. And Rabbit had taken and started a fire in that high, dry grass. And the fire started around that alligator. Before alligator could run, he was surrounded by fire. And Rabbit said, have a good day, alligator. I'll see you later. And she took off. Well, the fire came around that big old alligator, and it covered that alligator up. That alligator screamed and started running through that fire. Closed his eyes and ran through that fire. And did not stop till he got back to the bayou, and he jumped in. And when he jumped in, you could hear his skin go shh, because he was all burnt up. Now, he laid in that water for a long time. And then finally, he crawled up underneath the ledge in the mud and just laid there and went to sleep because that mud felt good on his burnt body. After a long time he'd been sleeping, he swam out from under that ledge and got on the bank, and he looked at his arms. And he looked at his body, and it was all crinkly, and it was all, it didn't look like it did before. Oh, he cried himself to sleep. He laid on that bank for a long time crying. He laid on that bank for a long time sleeping. Then finally, after a long time, you know who showed up again? Listen to this. Who showed up? Rabbit showed up. And alligator thought he was dreaming. And he goes, who's drinking? And he looks at his rabbit. He said, rabbit, drink all the water you want. And he jumped in the bayou. Ever since that day, if you go in the swamps of Louisiana, you see that alligator come up, and they look around. And if you make any sharp noises or throw something in the water, they go underneath, because they still think that fire creature's out there in that swamp looking for them. And that's why alligators today are a lot more nicer. They don't bite people unless they're hungry. And anything bigger than they are, they leave them alone. And that's a true Choctaw story. Y'all like that story? Yeah. So I'm glad y'all did. All right.
Wonderful. I hope y'all are enjoying some of the stories shared by Greyhawk, some of the music that we've been listening to. Tikach, Morning Dove, Yakoke, Chito, Morning Dove, Greyhawk, all of our beautiful family who are right now, you know, just the purpose of this stream. And thank you to Bvlbancha Public Access. So if you're just tuning in, or just a reminder, if you've been here with us for a while, this is part cooking show, part call-in, just anybody that, you know, hopefully we have people that are not in harm's way, or people that have checked in on family. We want to make sure that we take care of life, and we want to make sure that we take care of life first before anything else. Yeah, I mean, this is the stream for Hurricane Ida, and when it made landfall in the past 24 hours, it was nearing a Category 5 storm. Winds over 150 miles per hour, and a kind of storm that we haven't seen since 1850s. So we just want to just kind of call into mind, like, all of the people that are down there that are just now with the morning light. You know, they're able to go out, assess if they have remained in place. Some of our family members have evacuated, and you know, they're just kind of waiting to see, you know, if they can get back in the area and just do that assessment, do that sort of, like, you know, what's going on back at home. Is there a home to go back to? And then how, you know, either way it goes, like, how do we rebuild? How do we continue on from there? But most especially, you know, we want to, like, definitely highlight, you know, for Southeast Louisiana and the Gulf Coast, a lot of our tribes within that region are either state recognized or non-recognized, and so that's not to say, you know, that's not to like evoke, like, you know, some hierarchy or whatever. That's to say that there's a system that we have to navigate to do what we have to do to keep ourselves alive, healthy, thriving, continue on in our cultures and our ways of knowing. So you know, all of that together, all of the challenges that our people are facing, just to continue to be who they are. from my own family. So my grandfather was Joseph L.C. Preet Jr., first tribal chairman of the Tunica Biloxi. My great grandfather was Joseph L.C. Preet Sr., our last traditional chief of the Tunica Biloxi tribe and medicine man. And that means something. I was born at a time when we had the Native American Religious Freedom Act passed here in the United States. Up until that time, our ceremonies were outlawed. Our languages were outlawed. Dressing the way that we do is outlawed. And for all of that, we have a legacy of violence against our people. Not just what we're focusing on today, the healing and the worries that we're trying to center, but there's broader impacts, issues about murdered and missing Indigenous women, issues surrounding the residential and boarding schools across Turtle Island, so-called North America. So in all of these instances, you have a person standing up for who they are, standing up for where they come from. So, in this broadcast, we hope that you walk away. If you're part of our family, if you're one of my cousins, I hope that you find some peace in some of the stories that we're doing while I'm, attempting to make my version of red beans. I know how some of y'all talk. And yeah, no, I really hope that this is part of your healing process while you're assessing how to continue. For those of you that are just now, once again, your eyes are open to the rising sea levels, coastal erosion, climate change that has affected our lands in Louisiana, and that Band-Aid that I talked about before, that has been ripped off. So you can't ignore that in this moment. What we hope that you walk away from this experience of listening to all of this and listening to me ramble right now is that you actually intentionally go to the people that are the most impacted, center their voices, center their experiences, and let them lead. There's no I can't tell you what's right or wrong going forward in the process, but it's on everybody outside of our community to build trust with our people and help us go forward together, whether that's environmental justice, economic justice, racial justice, all of that. So on the cooking front, the rice seems to be okay. I seem to have navigated that pretty well. The beans need a little bit more time. So I'm gonna stay on for maybe another half hour. We're gonna go back to some of the stories. I'm gonna put the screen back up again, and hopefully you'll see me at the end of this cast eating some red beans and not lying to you saying that it's good, because they will be good, because I spent a lot of time on that. I'm very sensitive about my cooking. So let's gonna go from Greyhawk. I wanna hear from Eli Langley. Oh, actually, let's go Eli Langley first. So Go ahead, cue that up.
This is a CBC podcast.
Hey, I'm Michelle Parisi.
The woman behind Alone, a Love Story. Season 3 is coming out on February 5th. Love, sex, travel, motherhood, it's all in there. You don't expect anything less from me by now, do you? So put on some tea, make some space under the blankets, and get ready to hunker down with the final season of Alone, a Love Story.
Anine Jain, how are you?
Gonalonkwa, which is I love you.
Agamemok, keep going.
Diane for Don't Touch.
This is First Words, an Indigenous language podcast by Unreserved.
Yat-e, which is a greeting.
Miigwech, which means thank you.
Chahol Chivo Eli Langley ka Ana Boti Otosago Mill, Brittany Langley ka Otosago Mill, Linda Langley ka Otosago Mill. My name is Eli Langley. I am Brittany Langley's son. I am Linda Langley's son. I'm from Elton, Louisiana. I'm a member of the Coushatta tribe of Louisiana. I just got Harvard University to recognize my endangered indigenous language, and I feel amazing. Ayiksa. Ayiksa means clan. In the tribe, there are 7 clans, all of which are animals, and clans are essentially family units in the tribe. The clan is passed through your mother. So for me, my father is Coushatta and my mother is not Coushatta. So I don't have a clan. But my father is Bobcat. My grandmother, his mother, was Bobcat. So I would tell people, Ayiksa kamikso, katik kowagnisi hatka komil, which means I don't have a clan, but I'm a white Bobcat. After my senior year of high school, in the summer of 2016, in our tribal heritage department, we did an immersion program. The passion that I had for wanting to learn the language, and I ended up really eating it up and being really committed to the effort. Even 2, 3, 4 years ago, a large portion of the community thought that you couldn't learn the language as a second language. If you learned English first, there was no chance for you to learn Koasati. So the immersion program was probably the starting point for me gaining a significant amount of fluency. There are maybe 200 to 300 Koasati speakers, and of that group, I, at 20 years old, am the youngest speaker of this language. If I don't teach my children, or if I don't continue advocating for this and attempting to save our language in this way, there's a possibility that I will be the last person that ever speaks this language, which is a really heavy thing to think. But life is long, and I'm committed to making sure that that is not the case. There are a lot of terms in Koasati that I really like. The one that has stuck with me the most in my process of learning the language is probably Itachaki, which means brother. But the 2 parts of the word are Ita, which kind of means together, and Achaki, which means to go along with. So an almost more literal translation of that word would be someone who goes along with you. And I think that's really beautiful. Almost a literal idea of what it means to be a brother or a sibling is, a person that will follow you, will go with you, and stick with you, I guess, through the thick and thin. In English, a lot of the emphasis is on the nouns and adjectives, whereas in Koasati, the entire language is based on verbs. So the word for chair is pachakoka, which means what you sit on. The word for table is pa'olimpa, which is what we eat on. So Itachaki, I think, is a really beautiful shorthand for how we think. whenever I got to Harvard in the fall of 2016, I was really hot on the language. I had like dedicated my whole summer to learning it. I felt really, really good about my progress. I was basically totally conversational by the time I left home. I was considering doing it as a 5th class, an independent study, anything like that. But I was met with a lot of well-meaning people running me around, basically. I was told a lot about the handbook, the bylaws, the faculty rulings on this kind of stuff, and basically told that there was no way to go forward with what I was hoping to go forward with. Was told to take other languages. There is no good justification for Harvard saying this language is worthy of recognition and it matters, and this other language here isn't worthy of recognition and doesn't matter. So about a month and a half ago, I received word that we would be able to move forward with an examination in Coasati, and then shortly after that, I received word from the registrar's office that my record had been updated, my transcript had been updated to say that I had fulfilled the language requirement in Coasati, and that was just the most amazing feeling. Hi, my name is Eli Langley, and your words of the day are Itachaki, which means brother, Ayeksa, which means clan, and Abachakole, which means God.
For more
Jump in really quickly while we're watching Angela Como do some bead work. Just wanna just like I think that this is actually kind of the tone of the day, that we have to kind of take things slow, take things one thing at a time. Listen to me while I'm trying to produce this live stream and get the word out and everything. And but I think it's beautiful to kind of like just sit here and watch as Angela just strings these beads, one at a time. And it makes me think about my time in our tribal center, in our museum. And I would sit with my great aunts, and either they'd be doing bead work or doing basketry. We have several different techniques. The beads come from somewhere. The long needle, the long pine needles that we use for baskets, which my great aunts learned by the way of trading with Kushada community members. And also we have our split cane basketry, which at a time we couldn't do because of either over harvesting, not necessarily by us, but by others, or even just kind of clearing the land for more more it's hard to say like urban expansion in Marksville, Louisiana, but Marksville is a city. So yeah, urban expansion, just further further colonization of the land. So yeah, so I just invite you. We're gonna spend. I'm gonna stop rambling for a few minutes, and we're just gonna spend about 5 minutes or so just watching Angela do some deep work. So thank you so much for being here, even in this form of presence. Thanking all of our community members in Louisiana today. Thank you for being here, even in this form of presence. We're calling them all in because we need to uplift us, everyone. Okay, I'll be quiet. Talk soon. So, thank you, Tika Chikoke, language, all of it. My mama used to, my mama used to make me say hello and thank you and all of that and all the languages that we knew, because it just showed like, you know, all the different people that we're attached to, you know, whether it's grandparents or great grandparents, that spoke Choctaw or Tunica or Biloxi, or Mobilian trade language, or even like the French of the area, Louisiana French, as we call it, Spanish, Vietnamese, all of those things, all of the gifts of like languages and connections. So very happy to make all of those connections. I think we're almost there. So my guesstimate of 9 to noon here, 8 to 11 there, like that seems to be kind of seems to be okay. Well, on time. So I want to just pause the video here. I'm gonna go back. I will go back and do like another screen share just so we have the relief doc up. Again, a bit of context. This is you know, the attempt that we had within the last 48 hours to kind of consolidate like who tribes are. If there are donation links, we want to make sure that those are out there. Another Gulf is possible. Monique Verdun, Tika Chikoke for your work. Definitely look up Another Gulf is possible. They have a much more extensive list, especially for our community members who are in the impacted areas. You know, there are lists of supplies and everything that you need. So so really, you know, want to say, you know, really go to Another Gulf as possible. See what resources are there, and donate. You know, spread as much as you can. So show as much love and support as you can for all of our impacted communities. But don't let, you know, your dollar be the only thing that you do. You have to start understanding where you are, whose land or who stewarded the land where you are, and start the conversation from there. Because we're all connected in some kind of way, whether it's through the earth, whether it's through each other, whether it's through the water, everything. This is about relationship building. This is not just about throwing your money at a problem. This is about making connections and understanding people where they are. So I'm going to go ahead and bring back in the sage from Wabanaki Public Health. Hello, once again, my name is Jean-Luc Purit, member of the Tunica Biloxi tribe. I actually haven't said that for a few hours, so I hope everybody knows who I am by this point. Member of the Tunica Biloxi tribe and president of the North American Indian Center, Boston. Tikach Wabanaki Public Health for this medicine that I'm about to share with everybody. Also from the Wabanaki Public Health, I actually have this rattle, which was handcrafted by a Mi'kmaq artisan. So I'm going to do a little bit more smudging just to kind of help bring us back and kind of close us out a bit. Still got a couple more things to do, but you know, we're getting there. We're getting there. Stay with me. Thank you for this day. Thank you for the gift of life. All of the gifts that you have laid before us, all of the people that are still with us, not just through these storms, but through the ongoing pandemic, for all of the injustices in our world, all of the problems that us as humans that we've created for ourselves. Understanding not just our connection to each other as Indigenous peoples and non-Indigenous peoples, but our connection to all of our relations, all of the animals, all of the plants, the earth, the water, everything. We ask that those that could not be with us here today, and even those that were with us today sharing their voices, we ask that you watch over them, that they're protected, they have what they need to assess and to carry on. To be able to protect the land and the waters in their way. And then had a message to give to the sun. So he gave his message to his friend the bear, but the bear could only go up the highest mountain. And so the bear went all the way up the highest mountain. They got to the highest tree on that high mountain. And when he got there, the bear called out to his friend the eagle. And the bear gave the eagle the man's message. And the eagle, when she took the message, she flew all the way to the sky, all the way to the sun. And when she got there, the eagle gave the sun the Indian's message. And the sun, when she got the message, she reached out, she plucked the feather from the eagle, she kissed it, scorched the tip black, and said, "You will give this back to them. Tell them to wear it. And tell them, as long as there is a sun, there will always be the Indian people." Joy Kanya, Kanya, Joy Kanya, Kanya, Joy Kanya, Kanya. Ya Teti Manule, Ya Teti Manule, Ya Teti Manule. Yo te timano de, yo te timano de, yo te timano de. Hey yo ha, yo ha, hey yo ha, hey yo ha, hey yo ha. Ya kaya ya no ya hene ya no ya hene. Henne na, ya henne na, henne na, henne ya henne na. Ya kaya ya no ya henne no ya henne. Woo! So, Kutch, Heli Dardar, Kutch, Bvlbancha Public Access. Thank you to all of our cousins that are down there. Ida Ronson, Monique Verdun, our cousins that are outside, Robert Caldwell here in Massachusetts, Andrew Jolivet. All of us are here together in this space. I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna put it on somebody else to do some sharing. Then I'm gonna plate up some of this stuff. Hopefully I didn't burn the beans too bad. Y'all watch it. And I'll be back. We'll finish up. Talk soon. So we're gonna watch.
At the end of the Mississippi River, there is a place, the Shada, called Bvlbancha, place of many tongues, a place of many languages, known better as the global port city colonizers rebranded as New Orleans, where a crossroads of waterways provides access to sites of sacred trade, stewarded by the ancestors of these lands and waters. Generations have been weathering discrimination, land grabs, hurricanes, oil spill disasters, and the catastrophic side effects of man's manipulations, flooding our ways of life. Our intertribal alliance, Oklahina Ikish Holo, People of the Sacred Medicine Trail, is working to reestablish old trade routes and networks, adapting and co-designing paths for tradeways for the future, ways to exchange medicine, food, and skills to support biodiversity and sovereignty.
This is a really exciting project that is rising up like a shining light out of one of the most polluted areas in all of Turtle Island, of all of the United States, an area that has been called Cancer Alley because of how much fossil fuel pollution is in this part of the United States, and instead show a place of regeneration and healing led by Indigenous farmers who are building community, sharing stories of the land that are lifting up a very different vision of how we can move forward in this time of great transformation where we have a need to be able to live with each other in the land in a very different way.
We believe that it is crucial for us to protect and reclaim our relationships with our sacred homelands and waters in order to restore the natural balance, so the intelligence of the system can be respected for our communities to survive in deep collaboration with the nature, like our grandmothers before us, preparing for the unknown by putting our hands in the ground and our hearts into the work needed to strengthen decentralized systems of support, from mutual aid to intentional investment in building circular economies.
I think as we look at the multiple crises of the climate crisis and environmental degradation and colonization and environmental racism, that one of the most important things that we could be doing is to really support food sovereignty programs and food security, a way to really ensure cultural survival and cultural practices as we see storytelling taking place, and the story of the seeds and the story of the communities and all these different peoples that came together on these trade routes. When we talk about what we're going to do about the climate crisis, what are we going to do about colonization, what are we going to do about respecting Indigenous peoples and Indigenous peoples' rights, this is a response.
Our gardeners are on a journey together, collectively learning and sharing skills, hosting workshops on a spectrum of topics from composting to multimedia storytelling to medicine making, seed harvesting, and more. The Oklahina Ikisholo network of gardens connect us to each other, to traditional territories, to the places we call home, to the earth, and to the planetary work that is so urgently needed. But we know the plants carry the lessons to help us face the intersectional toxic challenges of injustices tied to colonial practices, perpetuated by multinational petrochemical corporations fueling the climate crisis. We are Uma, Shata, Osage, Lakota, Muskogee, Eastern Siouan, Sichungu Lakota, and Creole, femme and non-binary gardeners, seeding and growing and building across the Gulf South to defend and protect and to restore our lands and waters in the Mississippi River Delta and within the ancestral territories of the Shata and Muskogee.
And it's one of the ways that we begin to really honor the call from Indigenous peoples for land back, for rematriation of the land. And the dream of this project is a seventh generation project that will go on for many, many generations.
A beautiful message to go out on. Really happy for everybody that was able to tune in. Of course, I'll try to do as much of this, keep all of the stuff pre-recorded, make sure I'm not messing myself up here. But making sure that we keep this online, we keep this accessible, and we keep on making sure that we have people that are willing to build with us. So very happy, very thankful for everybody who's joined. I'm also very thankful for the beans, the rice, the pepper, the onion, garlic, the celery, everything that has kind of given of themselves to have this time together. So here we go. It's not too bad. All right. Be well. Talk soon.